Welcome to another travel talk with Selling Travel. My guest today is Dave Blandford, Executive Director of the Washington Tourism Alliance, and he'll be talking to us about what makes Washington State so unique and what agents are not to miss in 2021. So hi Dave, how are you today?
Very good. Nice to be with you, Jessica.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So let's start by establishing when you predict that international travel may resume and what requirements visitors might expect for future travel.
That is the question indeed. I think that in the latter part of the first quarter of 2021, I think we'll see some very strong signs, if not some resumption of travel. And we're very hopeful, of course, here in the US, but around the world about the vaccine trials
Yes,
and
very
having
exciting.
approval, distribution, you bet. And so I think that we know that there is pent-up demand for travel, inbound here to the US, but beyond. And I think that people will be very motivated to resume planning, albeit with some new appreciation for how to travel safely and responsibly. I think that what we've learned in 2020 will not leave us. I think we all will be different travelers in 2021 and beyond.
Yes, travel with a lot more caution and obviously wear our masks and social distancing is paramount. Do you think that those are protocols that will continue into 2021? And is that what you're doing there in the state?
Yes, I do think they will throughout 2021 and maybe beyond that. I think that there's been a paradigm shift here about what it means to be safe in traveling. And I think that it will take quite some time to resume and get back to normal, or get to the next normal, as we say. So I think that those precautions will remain in place. And fortunately, I think most travelers have become used to that. I mean, many people have not traveled, but those who have, or those who have postponed plans, are thinking that way. It means lots of planning, allowing extra time. It means traveling with those precautions, with masks. It means being patient and allowing social distancing, allowing a little bit more time to get through security. Absolutely. I think that will continue throughout the coming year.
I think one good thing that research has shown is that people are so desperate to travel that they're willing to adapt this new normal of mask wearing and testing and tracing and things. So I don't think that will stop people from visiting next year, do you?
No, I agree with you. And I think, had there been a resumption of travel maybe around late spring into summer, and I think, initially when COVID-19 began, we thought maybe we would be back to normal by then. That might not have been enough time for travelers to really take to heart these precautions and to really consider what it means to be safe. But this protracted pandemic that we've seen and been forced to really adopt new standards with, I think has really taught us some lessons. So I think that there will be a new kind of a responsible travel standard or value throughout the world.
Yes, and alongside the global pandemic, you've also had to deal with wildfire destruction. So you've not exactly had an easy year. How have you overcome these challenges?
Yeah, it has not been an easy year here in the western part of the United States, and the wildfires, of course, were up and down the West Coast. Wildfires in the late summer and early fall are fairly normal for us. It's a sort of a natural part of nature here, and we've become accustomed, but they've been rather severe the past 5 years or so. And fortunately, though they were very severe, in fact, the most severe we've ever seen, we've recovered very quickly. And we always know that once we get into September, the weather will change. We will see more precipitation, and that indeed is what happened. So we were very fortunate. In terms of the demonstrations, really that's a national story. That is throughout America. There's social change and social conversations happening that I think are very important. And we saw that in so many different cities. Here in the West Coast, of course, we tend to be very open-minded and expansive and want to discuss those things and to demonstrate and to speak up. So we saw that up and down the West Coast. And, you know, it continues. It's part of the conversation here. But in terms of the experience for a visitor, I don't think that it is especially disruptive.
Okay. And in terms of looking forward to 2021, what can travelers expect? Is there anything new, anything exciting going on that might encourage agents to recommend Washington State for their travels?
Well, always. Washington State is relatively close. It's 9.5 hours away, over the top. It could be a long city break holiday. It has great service, and once we see the resumption of service from British Airways and Delta and Virgin Atlantic, it's a pretty easy hop to get here, and a mild climate relatively throughout the year. Lots of outdoor recreation at various times. Summer, of course, is beautiful here, but even the shoulder seasons of fall and spring are relatively warm, and then winter recreation as well. Lots to do in Seattle, and I think that our travel infrastructure just gets better and better. We'll be opening a new international arrivals facility at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport very soon in the coming months that will greatly enhance the arrival experience for visitors.
Oh, that's great. And when will those developments, when are they due to finish?
Right, that one is in early 2021. The date shifts as construction dates do, but coming very quickly. And then of course we would hope to see a resumption of full service with airlines as we go through the reopening with COVID-19.
And what would you say makes Washington State so unique in comparison to any other states?
Great question. You know, it's incredibly diverse, and by that I mean it has the only temperate rainforests in the continental US out on the coast. And moving east, you'll get to a bone-dry desert and to wine country. Washington is at the same latitude as Bordeaux, France. We produce a number of very acclaimed, what you might call New World wines. For us, Americans are getting very used to these wines and seeking them out. There are more than 1,000 wineries in Washington State now. It's become a real destination for not just wine aficionados, but any one of a number of different beverages, craft beer and ales. We have probably the most advanced apple cidery heritage here. Coffee, of course, we're known for. Spirits, a lot of distilling around the state, and it's a foodie paradise for sure, because we have the product, but we also have people here who just love doing things with it. So that's a great experience for visitors.
Okay, and would you say that you're known for your wines and craft beers, and there are a lot of these kind of tours available for visitors?
Oh yes, yeah. You know, they're everywhere. We see them as wineries and cideries and distilleries. They tend to be in our cities, but also out in the country. So the experience is very different, but very accessible. So there are fly drive trips associated, but also lots of tours. Most of the wineries are east of Seattle by a couple of hours, but it's a beautiful trip over the mountains and then down through the wine regions. But you have many wineries and distilleries and cideries that are right in the heart of the city, little storefront tasting experiences, and then short tours just outside of Seattle city limits.
Oh, great. All right, so you can combine city with rural wineries and
Right.
get a taste of both worlds.
Indeed, that's really the Washington State experience, because we are so compact and because you have such thriving urban areas mixed with mountains and water and wine regions and rainforests. You've got all of that is so close. We tend not to have a lot of big resorts here the way other Western states would, but we always say that Seattle can be your resort. It is your launch pad, your gateway to a rainforest, to one of 3 national parks, or if you want to have a wine tasting day, it's easy from a downtown Seattle hotel to take a tour, do your tasting, and come back, so that you don't have to incur other overnight stays.
Oh, perfect. And you mentioned some of your national parks. We are seeing a big trend in countries promoting their outdoor pursuits, nature and wildlife. I think people just want to be outdoors nowadays. So
Yeah.
tell us more about your national parks and which is your favorite, for example.
Oh boy, the pressure of that. They're all so different, and I love them for different reasons. Mount Rainier is a 14,000-foot mountain about 100 miles south of Seattle. You can go right up to the snow line and hike in the snow, even in the middle of July.
Well,
Beautiful wildfires, wildlife watching. Of course, all kinds of either day trips or overnight trips from Seattle and the other urban areas. The North Cascades National Park is to the north. It hugs the Canada border. Beautiful sawtooth mountains, glacial lakes. It's a wonderful motor coach tour or a self-drive kind of itinerary, anchored by some maritime towns to the west and then some sort of western high desert towns to the east. Olympic National Park is on the Olympic Peninsula, which is the far western, northwestern point in Washington state. It is right bordering the Pacific Ocean. And that's where we have our temperate rainforests. We have 10, 11,000 foot mountains in the middle. And so you've got that diversity. You've got mountains and river rafting and forest walks, and then wild, beautiful, unspoiled Pacific Ocean coast.
mhm.
So my favorite,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm allowed to have a favorite. I love them all for different reasons.
Okay. So for first-time visitors, what would be the itinerary that you would recommend then to incorporate a bit of the wine, the desert, the mountains,
Mm.
the national parks?
Well, I think it is all of that, and to incorporate all of that, that's a bit of a trick because there is so much. But I think I would probably say if you want to explore the whole of Washington State, that staying in the middle would be a good launch pad. So Seattle or one of the Western Washington cities, and then you certainly could pick a day to go east for wineries. You could pass through Mount Rainier National Park. You could come back through a loop passage and go through a different national park, enjoy the little towns and the produce, the apples, the pears, the cherries in Eastern Washington. Maybe talk to some cider makers, some vintners. And then to the west, there is a lot of water here
Yeah.
in Washington State. And so what that means is that the highway system is extended by a state ferry system. So whether you're self-driving or you're on a tour, you would have the chance to take a Washington State ferry across Puget Sound or another waterway and explore some of our islands, like the San Juan Islands, over to the peninsula where you have more highways and rugged beauty. For those movie fans, think Twilight, the movie and the book
Oh,
series is set on the
Hyatt
Olympic
story.
Peninsula. So yeah, big trees, remote highways, rugged ocean beach. It is the Pacific Northwest. So that's an extensive itinerary to see all of that, but you certainly can do it.
Would you recommend, is that a 2-week itinerary?
No, you can. Oh, I think you could do that in a week.
Okay.
If you're thinking about a city break or somewhat shorter than a week, I'd say pick one. Maybe go west and see rainforests and water and islands.
Mhm.
Orca whale watching, for example. That would be a full long weekend or better part of a week. Or go east and explore some national parks and wineries and really a different kind of beauty in Eastern Washington that is more high desert, plains, agriculture.
And what would you say is your typical market from the UK? Is it a family market, couples,
Right.
outdoorsy types? How would you, describe the UK market?
All of the above right now, and it's been changing. Historically, it's been, I would say, couples, say from 44 onward, but with new air service, new attractions, and just a greater understanding and appreciation of Seattle and Washington State and the Northwest, we're seeing more families. We're seeing more singles as well, and people who are attracted to specific elements. It could be all the films that come from here, Twin Peaks and Twilight and Sleepless in Seattle.
Of
They,
course.
they know it for that reason. Some may come just for the lure of Seattle, which has been one of America's kind of favorite cities over the past 2 decades. And we see a lot of visitors just for food and wine and art and things like that. So to answer your question, it's all of the above, and it's great for all of the above, whether you're a single, you're a couple, you're a family. You've got that rare mix of urban sophistication and outdoor recreation and scenic beauty the whole way.
Mhm. And how are you working with UK agents to further promote Washington State? And how can they get in touch with you if they need any help arranging an itinerary and any other information they may need?
Right. Well, we certainly have many partnerships with Visit USA and with CLIA on the cruise side. We also have a new cruise and stay brochure, which is available in the UK. As you know, Seattle is the home port for Alaskan cruises. We see a lot of interest in that. We have regular outreach to agents in the UK through various e-newsletters and other distributions. And I think the best way is just through our representative firms there in the UK.
Hmm. Any plans to arrange any fam trips or events, road shows for next year to further work with agents?
Definitely, the big question is
Yeah,
when, and of
of course.
course that is related to the phases of reopening and when it is deemed acceptable to do that. But as soon as it is, we will. We find, Jessica, it's so helpful to just jump on a plane 9 hours later and see it. It's hard. It's a state that, even though we see the UK as a mature market for us, we've been heavily involved in that market for many years. That it still is one that's hard to picture because of that diversity. There's so many different aspects to it. Whereas maybe some other destinations in the US, there's a focal point on one thing. We
Mhm.
have so many. So we try to get agents and media and other clients over here as often as we can.
Great. Well, thanks so much for talking to me, Dave. It's been a pleasure.
It
And
has indeed, Jessica. Thank
yes,
you.
now we just need the borders to reopen.
We do. We do. Let's hope for the best in 2021.
Let's hope. Yes. Well, thanks so much for talking to me. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.